Terry from Jimmy Bean's Wool, and today we're going to talk about ruffle yarns. You see here I have some examples of some of the ruffle yarns that we have, and there are about 6 different styles of ruffle yarns, and you're probably even wondering, what is a ruffle yarn? A ruffle yarn is a yarn that's designed to form ruffles as it's knit. And there's about, like I said, 6 different styles, and we'll go through each one and I'll give you a few examples of each one. So let me move some of these out of the way for a moment and we'll come back to those. Okay, so the very first one is what I call a mesh. Now a mesh ruffle yarn, let's find it in here, is a yarn that has very tiny little diamond shapes, sort of like a very fine fishnet. And what you're doing with these is you're going to, with all the ruffle yarns, the key thing that's very important for all of them to form the ruffles is that they're knit only along one edge. And when I say knit, it's kind of, you're forming knit stitches or even crochet stitches, but it's only using a very edge of this, and I'll demonstrate it in a little bit with another ruffle yarn here in a few moments. But this one happens to be Flounce by Knitting Fever, and it's one kind of a mesh, and when you knit it up with about 10 stitches, you get this lovely flat ruffled scarf that looks like this. And you probably have seen our How to Knit with Flounce video that Jeannie did last year. This was our very first ruffle yarn, and it's been a very popular one ever since. Since then, we've been getting quite a few others. This one is called Petals. It is also a mesh, but this one has a little bit of a nice satiny ribbon right along the lower edge. But you can see it's a very similar mesh type construction. And here is very little sample that we did in the shop the other day. This is 3 or 4 stitches, and you can see that it is just adorable. Wouldn't that make the most gorgeous little kid's scarf? Or you can do, there's some really pretty colors, so it's a very fun and flirty kind of a mesh. The next kind of ruffle yarn I call a net, and this is what most of you who have been knitting ruffle yarns have probably already used. This one is still a mesh, but it's much larger, so I'm going to call it more of a net than a mesh. And with these, where the mesh you insert your needle in by measurement, like about every 3/4 to 2 inches, depending on how big you want your ruffles. This one has a diamond along each edge, along the edge, and you will knit into each one of those just using this top strand as what you're looping around your needle. So there's Triana. That's kind of a nice one. This is Triana Luxe. It has some metallic. This one is Filatura de Croce's Moda. And you can see it's also a mesh, a little different size, or excuse me, a net, a little different size net. Then we have this brand new one that we just got in called Broadway from Euro Yarns. It's a little bit smaller net. So the net can be all kinds of different sizes, but they all have in common is that you're going to knit along that top triangle. And this is an example of what the Triana looks like when it is all knit up, and this has the largest netting, and so that's very much what many people have been making lately with their ruffle yarns. The next type I'm calling a tubular yarn. These include such yarns as Rowan, Kid Silk Haze, or Kid Silk Creation. Basically, it's the Kid Silk Haze yarn that has been worked up into a large knitted tube. And you spread this out, and you can see you can even open it up so that it's hollow tube, which has a whole bunch of different possibilities of things other than just scarves. You can open up this up, cut lengths of it and sew it to your regular knitting and make sheer sleeves. You can do these lovely sort of rotini style scarves. Here's two in Kids Silk Creation. And you can knit and crochet either one with these, but these are just like, oh, I just love these. These are beautiful. And then another example of a tubular yarn is Taki Stacy Charles Celeste. And this one is 100% cotton. There's a little bit of metallic along the bottom edge, you can kind of see here, but again, it's a tube, so you can open it up and do other things with it besides just knitting scarves with it. But this is, being that it's cotton, this is a wonderful summer weight ruffle yarn to use. Then there is Trendsetter's Bodega, which is striped chenille and then the silk mohair blends. And that, again, it's the tube. It just really opens up, so you can do many things with it. And one of those scarves I had right at the beginning was, there's that. And like I said, these do more of the rotini style ruffles, but you can also layer them and do some really delicate shoulder shawls, things like that, or collars on things, trim, all kinds of fun things. So there's that one. Then the next type of ruffle yarn are these flat yarns. Here's our brand new one by Circulo. It's called Sensual Classe, and this is a chenille, and you can see the construction is very similar to the other nets and meshes, but this one you're going to just rather than having diamonds, it's got more of a straight boxy edge, but you're still going to knit into those. I probably would guess that this one you want to knit into every, maybe third or fourth, second, third, or fourth box instead of every one as you did on the other nets. The farther apart that you make put your needle in, the larger the ruffle and the more body and thickness your ruffles are going to have. Next here we have Barocco's Rick Rack, and this one is a flat yarn as well. There's the end. And this one gives a really kind of nifty southwest kind of look to things. And with these, you're going to knit through the tips up, these upper tips up here, and it's going to pleat and make a nice ruffle yarn this way, back and forth. But it's basically a flat ribbon that you're knitting on the edge. The next kind, you've probably seen a video or two already on the website for the Tundra and the Cha-Cha. These I call box ruffle yarns. The reason is because you can see here, get one layer here so it's not confusing. These have a wide strip and then they have these little boxes along the top. And you can either treat each one of those little solid parts of the boxes as the place to stitch and do every other one, or with crocheting you can just crochet with this top thread to create your ruffles. So this is Rossetti Tundra, the multicolors, really beautiful colors, and this is one that we have called Opera d'Arte. It's another filatura da crosa, and this one has more closely spaced boxes and then a kind of a neat little soft thread that's attached to the bottom edge. This is going to give you a very delicate, kind of very French looking kind of look. And then finally, the newest kind of ruffle yarns are, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call them fabrics. We have Circulo's Renda Tricot and Circulo's Tecido Tricot. And these are kind of fun. Now the tecido tricot is just like a regular kind of a bias strip or a wide bias type fabric. If I can find an end here. Taped down. And you can see here, perhaps, that it has holes punched in it about every inch and a quarter or inch or so, and you're going to knit into those holes. In playing around and experimenting, we find that after you've cast on every hole on your first row and then knit your first row, then switching to every other hole gives you the lightest, softest ruffle. Here, this is just, I believe, 2 or 3 stitches and gives you kind of this nice little skinny boa. But you can certainly go wider, and I think the instructions on the label say to cast on as many as 8 stitches. But you can see if you do it wider, it'll give you a nice look like that. And the other one, the Margarita, is actually a lace ribbon. Take it off. And let me open up this one. It comes just like a chantilly kind of a lace, and it has, let's see if I can do this here, it has holes actually constructed in right along the edge, and again we discovered you're going to get the best laying and softest ruffle by knitting into every other one. If you knit into every other one, it tended to make the lace stick straight out and looked very stiff and very formal. So if that's what you want, then that would be the way to do that. And these yarns are very fun because you can combine them. I've got this tangled up here. But here is the lace knitted up as kind of a neat scarf. This is just 4 stitches every other hole. And then you can actually lay the fabric one together with the lace and get this fun two-toned and very full looking lace ruffle. So that are all of the lace yarns that we currently have and all the different styles. Some of the key things to know about ruffle yarns, like I said, you're just going to be knitting along the edge. So here I'm going to demonstrate just a couple of stitches. For the English knitters, go ahead and just knit, but you're going to have to open up each one of those diamonds as you go. And it doesn't seem to matter too much whether you slip it on this way or you slip it this way, whatever is easiest for you. One way will make it seem like the stitch is twisted for you, but it doesn't seem to matter too much. These are very forgiving for a lot of things. The key thing is, do not use a slippery needle, as these are very susceptible to sliding off the needles. So using bamboo, birchwood, the plastic ones that are not very slippery. I really discourage the customers who are not familiar with knitting these to use something as slippery as, say, the Addi Turbos, just because it'll just increase their frustration. Once they get better and faster, then they can decide. But for beginners, I always suggest get some grip on your needles. You know, you don't want it to slide off inadvertently because everything is very loose with these. Now to show you again, if you're a left-handed or continental knitter, you can just do the same thing. And I've just got 4 stitches on here right now. Make it quick and easy. So another key thing is just be patient with ruffle yarns. You're never going to be able to knit at your normal, typical cruising speed if you're normally a fast knitter, because there's just certain things that you have to deal with these, because when you open them up, oftentimes they're going to look like this, and you have to pull them apart so that you can find where you want to knit. And one of the things that customers have really been finding helpful is to go ahead and get like a paper towel tube or some kind of cardboard tubing, and just sit and open up the yarn, and then as it's opened up, wrap it around the cardboard tube. And this helps keep it from twisting while you're knitting it, so you're having one less thing to fiddle with. So you can do that. Oh, sorry. Keep it centered so you can see what I'm doing there. But you can see, just kind of open it up and wrapping it around the cardboard tube. Then when you're pulling it, it's already kind of been relaxed into the open state. You can do it with this kind of yarn too, and just wrap it around. Okay, and let's see. Going ahead and only knitting with whatever size needle is comfortable for you, probably somewhere between a 6 and a 9, even though a lot of them recommend a larger needle. So I hope that helps. If you have any further questions, we're always happy to answer them. Just give us a call, live chat, or an email. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.
Thunder rumbles on this American summer night.